can't stop hearing about settler violence. This gang of marauding extremist settlers that are going throughout the West Bank, disturbing the peace, creating havoc, causing violence and upheaval to all of the poor innocent Palestinians. So much so that President Biden has ordered a sanction to revoke the visas of several of these extremist settlers. Not only that, but several nations have ordered a joint statement calling on Israel to take immediate action. Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, EU, Finland, France, Ireland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. Sounds like a hugely serious problem, right? Well, the problem with this is that it's not only a lie, but it's a bloody lie. So let's get into some facts. Who are the settlers? The settlers are a group of, for the most part, law-abiding citizens, around 500,000 of them, that are living in the ancient hills of Judea and Samaria, which make up the ancient Jewish homeland. The vast majority of the settlers are law-abiding citizens. They live, work, they have farms, they serve in the IDF to defend Israel. Are there some troublemakers? Of course. The biggest problem that I'm having with these accusations and this misreporting of settler violence is that as you dig into the articles, you can't find a single instance of anything that they're talking about. B'Tselem was the only site that I could find that had any type of in-depth reporting about it, but as you dig further down into the B'Tselem reports, it's all just eyewitnesses of a Palestinian said this or a Palestinian said that. There's no actual data that's there. So let me give you a for instance of this shoddy reporting. There's a situation that Camera exposed that happened in 2020, 4 years ago, in an article called Telegraph Promotes Myth of Daily Violence by Marauding Settlers. Here are the relevant paragraphs. For more than a decade, the villagers of Kassan say they've been harassed and beaten by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. In this quote, "They are attacking us day and night, in our houses, in our farms, and on the roads." After some 400 incidents in Kassan and the surrounding area, the villagers say they've had enough and have installed a camera system. However, when you look into the research, if you go into the site of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, they have a database devoted entirely to settler violence. Since we now have a number that we can work with, we can check it against the facts and the dates. Conduct a search over the last year with Kassan village in the Telegraph report. It turns out that there are not 400 incidences, but one incident that's been reported. Even if you widen that search to be in the surrounding areas, the entire West Bank only come up with, for the entire year, 58 incidences. The problem with this is that this report not only was shown on Telegraph, but also in Reuters and the BBC. So yes, while there were some of those 58 incidences that were considered vandalism, it's a way different reality from they are attacking us and beating us every day and night. And so how is the media getting away with this level of misinformation and misreporting? They're doing it with a very tricky sentence. They're taking the numbers of actual casualties that have happened in the West Bank and they're lumping it in with settler violence. So they say there have been 372 deaths, but they say they are deaths caused by Israeli forces and settlers. 99% of those are caused by the IDF doing successful counterterrorism initiatives, but they don't say that. They even further instigate by implying that many of these deaths have been children. But what they don't report is that it's kids like this tried to stab an IDF officer, or these kids who committed terrorist attacks, or the terror cell that was trying to plan another October 7th attack and that was taken down by the IDF in the Jenin hospital, also lumped in settler violence. Further proof of this is that if you actually examine who these men are that Biden put the sanctions on, one of them is a man who threw stones. Another one is a man who vandalized trees and some wells. So what does that tell you? If the settlers are really so extreme, is that the best that they've got? That's who they can sanction? Let's see what's really going on, the violence that's happening in the West Bank. I'm going to show you a short reel by our boots on the ground friend, Ezri Toby, that illustrates this beautifully.
I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank.
Hello, Mr. President. We in Israel hear that you're alarmed by the extremist settlers attacking innocent Palestinians, leading to your decision to temporarily hold back the shipment of rifles to our country. And we would like to ask you one single question. Could you kindly provide a name, one name, of an innocent Palestinian Arab who lost their life in a premeditated attack carried out by a Jewish settler? I'm not referring to Palestinians killed while attempting to harm Jews, but rather a case where a settler deliberately left his home with the intention of killing a Palestinian. One name. From the beginning of this year. How about in the year 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017? Not even one incident, sir. Now let's look at the Jews that were intentionally slaughtered by those you worry about so much from the beginning of this year alone. February 26, 2 Jewish brothers on their way back home were fatally shot point blank in the murderous town of Khawara. Sweets were handed out the next day in the Palestinian streets. April 7th, a mother and two of her daughters were shot to death while driving to a vacation. Not one condemnation coming out from the innocent Palestinian society. May 30th, a father of two was shot to death in his car. July 20th, 4 Jews were murdered in a gasoline station near the ancient Jewish village of Eli. The terrorist family were subsequently added to the Palestinian authorities' payroll. August 19th, a father and his son were shot to death in the murderous town of Khawara, turning the perpetrators into heroes within their community. August 21st, a mother of 3 was murdered in front of one of her daughters, and celebrations followed in the innocent Palestinian society. According to the official Israeli government site, in January 2023, there were 187 attacks against Jews in Judea and Samaria alone, 157 terror attacks in February, 183 in March, April, 147 terror attacks against real innocent civilians. Add to these figures dozens more casualties within the Green Line up to October 7th and hundreds more beyond, and it's impossible not to see a clear picture. Mr. President, if given the opportunity, the Arabs surrounding the Jewish settlements would slaughter our children, rape our wives, exactly like they did to us in the Gaza border, and we don't need another October 7th to prove it. With all due respect, Mr. President, but your characterization of the righteous Jews of Judea and Samaria as violent and notorious people is nothing less than another blood libel against the Jewish people, and is a very big moral stain.
Let's get back to Biden and his statements. In his executive order, when he talks about sanctioning these outrageous settlers, he says, "I find that these actions constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States, and I've declared a national emergency to deal with this threat." Is he freaking kidding me? Seriously? A national emergency for some stone throwers and well vandalizers? Really, honestly, I'm struggling to understand this order from Biden. At the same time, he is refusing to enforce sanctions on Iran. He's permitting hundreds of people that are on the terror watch list to enter in through an open border. What I would consider a threat to national security is the fact that we've had an open border that has allowed 100,000 American citizen deaths because of fentanyl that has come over. We have gang violence and school shootings. We have US soldiers being killed by Iran proxies. Maybe the reason that there's violence in the West Bank is because it's become a hotbed for terrorist organizations like Hamas, PIJ, Lion's Den, Hornet's Nest, and even ISIS. Maybe this is what's causing the violence in the West Bank. Maybe this is what's causing the violence in the West Bank.
والله أمجد بكت يعني حاطط في باله بس اليهود بس يجي بكى يروح يرتض عليهم.
Maybe this is what's causing the violence in the West Bank.
الذي تصدى للعالم أليس أبو مازن الذي وقف على منصة الأمم المتحدة وقال لا، حماس ليست حركة إرهابية، الإرهاب الحقيقي هو الاحتلال، الإرهاب الحقيقي هو الاستيطان.
And not the few Jews that these governments are trying to scapegoat. My usual approach when it comes to presenting these videos is I like to gather the facts, gather the data, present it to you, and allow you to come up with your own opinion for yourself. In this case, I'm going to make an exception. Whether it has to do with the new election and it's an attempt to mollify all of the pro-Palestinian voters out there, or it's an attempt to create some kind of equivalency between Hamas and this made-up group of Jewish terrorists. Regardless of whatever the reason is, we should all be appalled that these governments are intentionally fanning the flames of division by propagating an easily debunked lie. If Biden and the other governments insist on sanctioning settlers, how about insisting all West Bank violence is sanctioned? Or maybe we should put a sanction on Biden himself for allowing our tax dollars to support the Pay for Slay Martyrs Fund. As you can see here, we have millions of dollars of our tax money going to support the families of the actual October 7th terrorists. I've had a lot of discussions with people about the feeling that we all have now of the brewing anti-Semitism, what it must have felt like in the early days of the Holocaust. And the big difference that I've seen, while some of the public sentiments have been very similar, what we haven't had is the government involved in the way that it was in the 1930s in Germany, until now. Now, all of a sudden, we have governments and the American government coming out and doing something so blatantly anti-Semitic. This is what we need to push back against. My people, this is dangerous. To allow the government to perpetrate this lie against our people. This is what we need to push back against. We, as a people, cannot allow this to happen and to continue on. To allow our government to malign and smear the names of our people and make them out to be terrorists. That's all I have today. I'm Yisrael Chai, everybody. Stay strong. Peace.